light that the followers of Jesus have an opportunity to walk in. You know, David talked about that light. He talked about thy word being a light. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. So that spiritual light that we are searching for, it's found in Jesus, my sisters and brothers. John chapter 8, verse 12 says, Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Do you have the light of life coming out of you, my brothers and sisters? If you do, the world knows that you have been with Jesus. We are to be light to those in the darkness. And, you know, there was a song that I heard, and I loved it so much, and the name of the song was Treasures in the Darkness. And there are treasures in the darkness, my brothers and sisters, waiting to be found. And they are waiting for someone to shed that light, to just shine that light on them, because the darkness has consumed them. But as we know that when we follow Christ, we no longer walk in darkness, but we walk in his marvelous light. So I encourage you, my brothers and sisters, today. The Bible says, let your light shine that men may see it and glorify our Father which is in heaven. And before that verse before that says that a light is not put under a bed. It's put on a pedestal so that others can see that light, and they can be drawn by that light, and they can walk by that light. And if you walk by the light of Christ, he said, I am the light. And let me read it again. It is really, really good. So let's buy into this. Then spake Jesus again, saying unto them, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. My brothers and sisters, this old world can get dark. It's got some dark places. It's got some dark times. It's got some dark people. It's got some dark minds. So you have to walk in the light of Christ if you want to walk circumspectly and walk in the right direction. Our direction does not count. We must follow Christ, because he is the spiritual light of the world that we cannot do without. So remember, be that spiritual light and shine in your family, because we need that light. And you know what else? Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Praise him.
Where can you buy a brand new Nissan with a lifetime warranty? Kingston Pike. Hey, folks, Gerald Anderson with Ted Russell Nissan. You heard it right. Every new Ted Russell Nissan comes with a lifetime warranty, and that's a long, long time. Ted Russell Nissan on Kingston Pike.
Good morning and welcome to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Ask Your Neighbor can also be heard and seen on our website, WYSHradio.com. And if you are in Anderson, Roane, or Morgan County and have Comcast cable, you can watch Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV Channel 12. Ask Your Neighbor is the program where you call in and do just that. Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a comment? Do you have a problem? Or do you have a question? Then call in and ask your neighbor. 865-457-1380 or toll free at 877-711-4005. And for those of you that might be listening or watching on the internet, you can email from our website, WYSHradio.com. Just click on the Contact Us button and email your questions. Now sit back and listen as listeners throughout East Tennessee and the entire world answer your questions on Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV 12 and AM 1380 WYSH.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome into Ask Your Neighbor this morning. And here we are, Tuesday morning, the first Tuesday of the month. That means Dr. David Ayers comes in with us. We'll talk about what's going on in medicine and doctrine and all that good stuff. Morning, Doc. How are you, sir?
Doing fine.
Good.
It's hard to remember to be here since I live down here. It's usually involved a trip. We had to get ready for it, and the day before, and I'd come down Sunday evening or Monday.
Yeah.
Living here, I woke up in the middle of the night.
Sneaks up on you, huh?
Got a radio show to do.
So, what's going on in medicine, or what do you want to talk about today?
Non-medicine, I was thinking, I don't know if you saw a letter that Pam Bondi wrote to the American Bar Association, but they've put them out of being able to interview and taking their opinion on judge recommendations.
Who's they?
The American Bar Association. The American Bar Association always rendered an opinion about somebody
Gotcha.
who's coming up for a judgeship.
Gotcha.
And now they've said,
So Pam Bondi told them they couldn't render a decision anymore?
Yeah. Because they can comment just like anybody else can.
But they don't have any input into...
Mm-hmm. And they used to be able to interview them. And
so that's just presidential appointments now?
For judges, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think she was saying that your opinion's always to the left. It's always to the left. It's not like it bounces back and forth. So we're just not going to take your opinion.
I didn't see that.
That's pretty... Yeah, should do that to American Medical Association. Be appropriate. I think I mentioned last time, but, somebody looked at the news since President Trump was in, and, when he's got his flaws, but 90-some% of the coverage on the national news has been negative.
More than that, 99% probably.
Yeah. And I think it's like 41% on Biden. So I find that interesting.
Well, and still at this very moment, Republicans are more favorable for handling the economy, for handling the border, in every single instance, even with the overwhelming negative news that your mainstream media shares. Even with that, Republicans still hold a lead in every single aspect of politics, from the economy to inflation to the border, all of it. And I mean, I watched numerous channels, but I literally saw a host yesterday say, I don't understand how this can be, because, with all the bad things going on, but the economy is, it's pretty much chugging along. I don't like the inflation and the higher interest rates, but that'll cure itself as the economy continues to rebound out of the COVID stuff. So I feel like sometimes that the national media, they either don't think we pay attention, or they think that a majority of us are dumb or naive, that if they just say it, we automatically believe it. And I think that that's cost them a lot of their credibility, which is why people turn to alternative podcasts and things like that for news today, because it's more reliable, and it doesn't, a lot of them do not have an agenda. They're just there, to present some facts. So we'll see, but it was like that in the first term for President Trump, that they only highlighted negative stuff, and even when they didn't have negative stuff to have, they just made up stuff. But so I didn't foresee it being any different this time. In fact, I figured it'd be worse, because he's not like last time he was like a bull in a china shop, but he didn't know it. It took a while for him to get his sea legs under him. This time he knew exactly what he was doing, brought in the exact people he wanted to bring in, and he just, bull in a china shop, I think, is a polite way of putting it right now. He's just running this stuff right down the Democrats' throats and doing exactly what he campaigned on doing. And I don't see it getting any better, because the news media doesn't like the things he ran on. They didn't think he'd win, and then when he won, they don't want him to succeed at doing the things that he said he was going to do. So that doesn't surprise me that it's negative overall.
Yeah. I think someone said there was like Obama had like 12 times where the court overruled some decision he made in his 4 or 8 years, and then Biden had some similar number. And Trump in his 4 years previous, and then what he's done so far, 79 times the courts intervened. So the court's out of control right now.
Well, and if you pay attention to it, though, almost every single thing that he's had that they've intervened on, it's been either appealed and we won on appeal, or the Supreme Court's ruled in his favor. And that's all they're doing. Again, these people know the law. They understand what they're doing. They're trying to run out the clock. They're trying to run out the clock, thinking that if they can delay until the next election or even the midterms, that they can have more control on reopening the border and, the stuff that they want to do. But all of the things are going to come back around to being within the parameters of the law. So the wait times, the things that they've overturned on his executive orders will be overturned again. A judge can't strip the president of the powers given him by the Constitution.
No.
So, but they can stop it until a court higher than them rules on it. That's the other thing too. The Supreme Court needs to come to a decision that a district court in Albuquerque, New Mexico, doesn't have a thing to do with what's going on in Knoxville, Tennessee. They don't get to make rules, regulations for our district. They don't get to impose, the whatever they believe in Los Angeles on us here in East Tennessee. So the only court that does get to do national rulings is the Supreme Court. So I don't know why they haven't stepped in and smacked down some of these rogue judges faster. I guess the Supreme Court things move slower, but watch and see. I will bet you as much money as you'd like to bet they will do that. Yeah,
they're about going to have to. I mean, sometimes the Supreme Court just waits on a right case. They want a case that they can rule on.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to medicine.
Okay.
Noom, Noom, is a app you can download on your phone, and it helps you with weight loss or health, fitness, and kind of thing. And it's hard to keep people engaged in those sorts of things. So they've tried to make it like a game. They copied the thing called Duolingo. Duolingo is where you learn another language, and they've made it like a game, and they've been very successful at it. So now this health site has also added.
So that's what I've seen it advertised, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, and they've also added clinicians on there who can prescribe these GLP-1 medications, Ozempic and such, and hormone replacement therapy, as well as the GLP-1s. They're trying to use human psychology. People like to please an app, it seems like. And if it's got a daily need for you to check in and you get more points or something, people keep coming in. So
isn't that odd how we're programmed like that?
It's just the way we are.
Yeah.
The Make America Healthy Again report was attacked by Los Angeles Times. Something horrible. I mean, it was awful. It was like every bad thing you could say about something they said about it. That's not very helpful. I mean, if you're fighting Make America Healthy Again, I'm just not sure whose side you're on.
Yeah.
But I read that. I could read it to you, but it's just too sad. The Department of Health and Human Services, which is under Kennedy, along with the FDA and the NIH, came out, and they removed the recommendations for COVID shots for healthy children and healthy pregnant women. Now, the CDC did alter their recommendations for the healthy children, but not for the pregnant women yet. They should. I'm not sure why it hasn't happened yet, but on their website, it's still up there for pregnant women. The pregnant women thing seemed to be to encourage everybody else to get the COVID shot, because basically they said if it's healthy enough, if it's safe enough for a pregnant woman to take,
safe enough for you,
then it should be safe enough for you. But I mean, honestly, that was, and the OBGYNs, I've been to conference twice now, and they still talk about that like it's a safe thing to do. And there's just nothing out there to back that up. I saw a report the other day that said if you got the COVID shot in your first trimester of pregnancy, it was like an 82% miscarriage rate. He said miscarriage drugs don't even work that good. So let me clarify for you listening out here. These things are my opinion, and they're not necessarily the radio stations or its advertisers. But I was thinking, all the times we get dinged on like YouTube, the things I say are well thought out and they're scientific, and I don't know why things get demonetized when you bring up a valid alternate opinion. That seems wrong.
Because of the people that control
I know
YouTube.
They're just scared of truth.
I mean, they did the exact same thing with Twitter before it was X. The exact same thing. If you said something that they didn't like, they deleted your account or froze your account.
They don't like it. That's what I get, because the government said so, or some advertiser said so, or that's radio is one of the last marketplaces of ideas you can have out there. One of the problems with this healthy kids getting the shots, not getting the shot now, it's not being recommended, is that 40% now of American children have a chronic diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So the shop people are not too upset with this ruling because they say, well, it's still got 40% of the kids. You need to ponder that out there listening. 40% of American children have a chronic diagnosis. That is just wrong. That is just wrong. And most of them being medicated.
Yeah.
Whether it's Ritalin or Adderall for ADHD, or it's something for some horrible allergy they have, or an asthma kind of thing. American kids are some of the least healthy children in the whole world, and they get more money spent on them as far as their health goes than probably any other children in the world. And I would argue that it stems out of the vaccination program. In 1986, there were 3 routine vaccines and a total of 7 injections. So if you took your kid to the pediatrician on a regular basis, he got 7 shots and had 3 different things. There was a DTP, and then you got injectable polio. That was about it.
Okay.
Now, there's 19 different vaccinations, 76 injections, 94 different doses, if you follow the protocol. And you look at the when you take your kid to see the doctor, you may take them at 2 weeks, get like a weight check, make sure things are going okay. Then you got a 2-month visit, right? You got a 4-month visit, you got a 6-month visit, you got a 9-month visit, you got a 12-month visit, you got a 15-month visit, you got an 18-month visit, then you got a 2-year visit, and a 3-year, 4-year, and after that, just years. All those intervening visits, your kid's nothing's really going to happen between 2 months and 4 months, or 4 months and 6 months. They're bringing him in to get a shot.
Yeah.
That's all it's about. It's the whole pediatric world is set up around injections. And I have friends who are pediatricians that, man, the trouble with vaccinations, it has become a medical religion. And I can tell you in medical school, at least when I went, and this is back in the 80s, really you were taught about vaccinations. They may mention something about smallpox, since that was really the first one. And then it's basically you memorize the schedule and the different shots, which I went in the early 80s, so I only had the 3 I had to learn.
Okay.
But during the years in practice, I had to memorize all these other things. You know, what shots you got at different visits. No one really went into the whole shots. And let me tell you, there was never a pre-licensing safety study on any of these. I'll say that again. There was never a pre-licensing safety study on any of these. You say, why is that? All other drugs have to have safety studies done because they filed them differently. They're not filed like medications, even though they are. Here's how this was sold to the United States. Russia and China are out there making biological weapons, and they're gonna put diseases here in the United States. We have to move fast, so we're gonna come up with all these shots to protect our people against catching these diseases. And so they call them biologics. They're not called medications. Vaccines are filed under biologics, and biologics don't have to have any pre-licensing safety studies. They're just GRAS, G-R-A-S, generally regarded as safe. That's what they file them under. It's a vaccine. It must be okay. But they're not. They're not. And if you look at the health problems in the United States, the amount of cancer has gone up tremendously. Now, I'm not saying this is causative, but you need to consider that we started all these shots, now we got all this cancer. We started all these shots, now we got all this autism. We started all these shots, now we got all these allergies. We started all these shots, now we have all this autoimmune disease. None of this stuff existed really before at the levels we have it now. And now 40% of the kids have a chronic diagnosis. Maybe it's because we're giving them 94 doses of medication in the shot form. All I'm saying about vaccines is we need a moratorium. We need to stop them, and then we need to do some safety studies, and then we need to reevaluate. Do we need all these? And my guess is we don't really need all of these. There was a tour of the United States done by the Children's Health Defense. This is where Kennedy used to be in charge of that. They took a bus, went all over the United States, and they talked to parents. And you know they're selecting out for parents that have problems with the shots. So they said it fell into 3 categories. 1, SIDS. Children who had shots, and then they died. Sudden infant death syndrome. 2, kids who had autism now. So parents who took their kids, and then they were autistic. And then 3, reactions to Gardasil, which is the shot for human papillomavirus. And they said the stories were very similar, and they all started like this. My child was a healthy, happy child, and then he got a shot, and then this has happened to him. And they said they all gave the same story, that their eyes seemed to glaze over. The child's eyes just seemed to lose their contact, and then this sickness evolved from after they had the shot. Now, did it cause all these people to have these problems? I don't know, but I'd say probably most of them. I mean, if you get a shot and your child has autism 2 days later, and then somebody tells you, oh, that was just chance. There's a lot of chance happening out there. I mean, it used to be like 1 in 30,000. Now it's like 1 out of 30 kids. And they say by 2050, be 1 out of every other child is going to have autism as a diagnosis if the rate doesn't change. That's crazy. That's not right.
Hang on, I think we got a call.
Got a call?
I think so. Good morning. Do you have a question or comment for Dr. Ayers this morning?
Yes.
All right, you're on. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to ask, and then I'll hang up and listen. Is there anything else I can do for a urinary tract besides cranberry juice? I can't take antibiotics right now because I'm getting ready to have a block, and you can't do that. So I will listen.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cranberry juice and those sort of acidic kinds of drinks, they stop the bacteria from attaching. So they're better at prevention than they are intervention. So I guess if you think about it, we've only had antibiotics since around 1941 when they came up with penicillin. We had some sulfa drugs before that, which do work for urinary tract infections. Here's what I would say. Before 1941, people weren't dropping dead of urinary tract infections. So somehow the body had a way of dealing with it. So I would say stick with your cranberry juice or whatever other acidic drink you wanted to use. And then drink a lot of water and try to keep it flushed out. What happens in a urinary tract infection is it's not just bacteria in the bladder. It's a bacteria invading the wall of the bladder. That's what really causes the symptoms, the irritability, feeling like you got to pee all the time. But if you're not going to take an antibiotic, it's going to be hard to make it go away quickly, I think. But I do think if you're otherwise healthy, immune system, your body will override. Now, you have to be careful about the one rare thing that hardly ever happens, but it could happen, is the bacteria keep going north. So it's one thing to get from the outside of your body into the bladder. It's another thing to get from your bladder away up to your kidney. Because people sometimes use the word interchangeably, I've got a kidney infection. But a kidney infection, has high fevers, a lot of flank pain. People are really, really sick with a kidney infection. So I would push fluids. I don't know if my research assistant can look online. I'm sure there's some other interventions you can have. And then stick to the cranberry juice. Now, listen, it only takes like one dose of an antibiotic. I don't know how it's going to interfere with your block, I think you said you were getting. You can just take one pill. That usually cure it. So if you got access to one pill, I would probably go with the one pill of an antibiotic. You know, we used to treat everything 10 days. And the reason we treated everything 10 days, at least the best to my understanding, was if somebody had a bad infection, like you remember on the old, like on an old Daniel Boone episode, or the old medicine doctor show, or that was, but
Dr. Quinn.
Yeah, medicine woman. So if there was a certain crisis that happened, and if they made it through the night, you knew they were going to be okay, and so that usually happened about 10 days out into a bad infection. And so we started, when antibiotics came out, we treated people for 10 days. Well, then we came to find out you really don't need to treat people for 10 days. Some things you do, maybe like pneumonia, but other things, you could almost a dose will kill it, particularly like a bladder infection. I hope that's helpful. Matter of fact, my research assistant comes up with something else, I will let you know. But please call in, because your questions are much more interesting than the one I have here. Bladder infections are ascending. I mean, they start outside the body and they move up. So they're much more common in women than they are in men, as you might consider based on anatomy. It's a shorter distance from the outside to the inside on a female than it is on a guy. So women tend to get more bladder infections. Men tend to get them after they get older and the prostate gets larger and it starts blocking the pee, so they never really empty their bladder all the way. There's always some residual urine in there, and wherever there's residual anything in the body, it tends to get bacteria in it. I mean, you can get prostatitis, and they'll block the bladder even worse. So they're all ascending. You don't really get bladder infections like from some of your AIDS or in another way. For the women that get them after intimacy, which is very common, then a couple things. One, the cranberry juice would probably be helpful there. Two, just pee, So when you're done, pee, because that would just push all the bacteria made it up there out, and it'll cut down on the number of infections. If you get really bad infections after that, then you can just take one dose of antibiotic afterwards, and that will tend to block it. Sulfa drugs are good for that. Some people have sulfa allergies. Sulfa allergies can be life-threatening, so you have to be careful with sulfa allergies. But most antibiotics will tend to work for that kind of infection. Okay. I think we talked about all the pre-licensing safety studies. So when you go to the hospital, we mentioned this last time, be careful what you sign, because it'll say that the hospital can give you any biologic they want to. So if you're passed out, you're under anesthesia, they can shoot you with whatever based on what you sign. And it's a racket, okay? It's a racket created by lawyers, because you sign a paper every time you go to the hospital that you've read all those papers. And I know you didn't read them, and you know you didn't read them, and they know you didn't read them. In fact, most of the time they don't even give them to you. They just give you a paper that said you read them. If you ask them for it, that flusters them, like they don't even know what to do. Where are those papers? So you should look at them, because you're signing a lot of rights away when you say that you read those papers. And I just say, I write on mine, do no vaccinations or biologics, write it in their print, because they will shoot you and not even ask you. It's horrible to think. You really need somebody to go to the hospital with when you go. Somebody's got to look out for you, because bad things will happen. The phenomenon of modern medicine is that they drove the regular doctor out of the hospital. When I started in medicine, I would go to the hospital. For 20 years, I went to the hospital, like twice a day, almost every day. And it was like 27 miles away, so it was a long haul, in addition to working in the office. But people liked having their own doctor come in and see them while they were in the hospital. I mean, that's why you want it. That's why you have a doctor, so you can take care of you when you're sick. But they made hospital medicine sort of its own thing over time. And they found it was cheaper and faster. Why wait for Dr. Ayers to get off in the evening and come in and discharge this patient? What if we had somebody in the house, they could just discharge them early in the morning, or in the middle of the day? And so they came with this hospitalist thing. So now you can be a hospitalist. That means you only treat patients in the hospital. You don't have any outside follow-up with them. You don't know what happens to them after they left. But they're there, and they can get things done fast, and it increases the turnaround time. When I first started in medicine, you were in the hospital 2 weeks if you had bypass surgery.
Now you're in 2 days.
You're right. So it's fast.
I think we got a question here. Good morning, WYSH Radio. Do you have a question or comment for Dr. Ayers this morning?
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
Maybe actually be more than one. I'm going today for a heart monitor. Wear it for 7 days, and then the Park West Hospital is supposed to call me about doing a Lexiscan stress test, where apparently, from what I'm researching, they're going to inject a radioactive tracer into me and some other drugs, chemicals, I should say. And then for 2 days, I can't be around pregnant women, young children, or babies, and possibly even your pet. I'm wondering about, it's a nuclear stress test. Are those safe as a general rule? And the reason they're doing it, I had an episode Sunday of last week, and then also again on Monday. I just kind of some like dull pains in my heart, radiated up to the neck, and that was the worst part because it's like a vice around my esophagus, then to the lower jaw, left side, down the left arm. Well, I was sitting here watching a movie, and I thought, well, heck. And then it happened again Monday. It didn't last as long. It was much milder. So I called my general practitioner. Of course, that Monday was Memorial Day, so couldn't call her till Tuesday. Got in on Wednesday, did an EKG, and she said my EKG from the previous year, which was fine, this new one, was showing an RBBB.
Okay.
The 3 Bs, block, branch, block, I don't know, something like that. And so get in my cardiologist, which I see Dr. Xenopoulos in Knoxville, and could not get in. He's booked months ahead. But because I'd had a problem, they got me in with the nurse practitioner, and now she's ordering all these tests. And she also went over all my blood tests that my GP had done. And, yeah, my LDL was 155, which I have no problem with. HDL 62, total cholesterol 240, triglycerides 113. Immediately, I got a statin called in, and I said, gosh, my brain needs that food. And she looked at me, of course, like I was a moron. And I thought, okay, I better shut up or I'll get thrown out of here for being non-compliant. I picked up the prescription, paid for it, picked it up just so it'll show I got it. I won't take it. I've already thrown it away. And then they did a GFR, 82, which I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that. No, that's stage 2 kidney disease. I'm like, what? Bull. And I asked the nurse practitioner cardiologist lady, I said, I've read where levothyroxine, which I've been on since 1998 for hypothyroidism, can over time cause heart problems. And she gave me a look like okay, quit reading Dr. Google. Well, that wasn't Dr. Google. That was Debbie doing her own research. And she said, I've never heard of such a thing. I know nothing about it. And I guess this whole nuclear stress test thing, I'm seeing an oncologist for I'm very toxic in iron. It was 1,700, slowly came down. In January, when it was checked, it was down to 618. Still toxic. But then when they did this bunch of labs, because of the heart little thing, it's back up to 922. And I'm like, I hope there's no iron in any of these chemicals they're going to shoot in me if I had this stress test. I was on iron every day of my life again since 1998. An endocrinologist put me on this stuff for hypogammaglobulinemia, except my ferritin levels were never, ever checked again. So then when my doctor retired and I get this new, which is a family nurse practitioner, because you cannot get in with a medical doctor anymore, she did these tests, and there's the ferritin, 1,700. I'm like, oh, my God. It's got cancer, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do biopsies. I'm like, yeah, no. I'll just go to a hematologist, oncologist, and see what they have to say. And I did. I went to Dr. Mitchell in Knoxville. And he said, oh, we're not going to start doing a bunch of biopsies. I'm going to do a CT scan of the whole abdominal area. If anything lights up, he said, I will know if you have cancer. He did it. I came back. He said, no, you don't have cancer. You've got an extremely high ferritin level because you've literally been taking an iron, prescription iron, every day of your life since 1998. And which I had already stopped that on my own a couple of months before. And he said, we're going to watch it every 3 months. And it has gradually, and he said it could take years for it to really get back to normal, which makes sense. But I was just concerned. I'm like, well, shoot, in January it was 618. Now here it is June. It's back up to 922. Why? I don't know. I've not been taking anything with iron in it. So there's your soup du jour. Make of it what you will, and I'll hang up and listen. And thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. There you go.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a good story. As far as the iron goes, ferritin is iron storage. So obviously the iron storage would be high if you were taking iron every day of your life, particularly after you quit having periods. It's, since women have periods and they lose iron every month, it's hard to get them toxic on iron. But once you stop that, and if you keep taking iron, then yeah, it's gonna go up, and you can damage your liver, by getting iron levels that are too high. Iron ferritin, however, is also a thing called an acute phase reactant, meaning that it's like a thing called sedrate. Sedrate is a ESR, erythrocyte sedimentation rate, is a test they do to see if you have inflammation. So if you got rheumatoid arthritis, and it's flared up, it'll be high. So ferritin's a little bit like that. So maybe because of the spell you had, that's what drove it back up a bit. Once you get this heart thing figured out, if you want to knock your ferritin down faster, you can just go to the Red Cross and give blood, and it will pull it down faster. Because it's going to need that iron storage to make more blood. And so giving blood is almost like when you're having a period. You take a bunch of blood out and it'll bring it back down faster. That's that. Second point, if the pain in your chest lasted for more than 30 minutes, I don't know how long it lasted, definitely you would have to consider that you had a mild heart attack. It sounds like a heart attack. That's the way it radiates on a heart attack. But not every chest pain that radiates to your jaw and your neck is a heart attack, but it needs to be concerned. The fact you had an EKG change to somebody without a right bundle branch block to a person with the right bundle branch block after you had significant chest pain would be concerning. I think they're taking their time, and I don't really like that. I mean, you have a story that's consistent with somebody that was having a heart attack. So if it was from your heart, at least you have unstable angina now. And unstable angina has about the same outcome statistically as having had a heart attack. Stable angina would be every time you walk up a hill, you get a little bit of chest tightness. Okay? It's predictable. You had unpredictable chest pain. It was new in onset, and you weren't doing anything at the time other than watching television. So, and you had an EKG change. I think you deserve a cath. That'd be more to the point. Because all the stuff they're doing is to try to determine whether you need a heart cath or not. And based on your story, I think you need a heart cath. You don't need all these other tests. But giving you radiation, is that bad for you? I think radiation is bad in general. So, yeah, you should avoid radiation as much as possible. Is that one little test going to hurt you? I don't know. They're worried about it hurting kids and dogs. So I would be concerned that it's going to hurt you as well. Sometimes nuclear tests are all right, but it doesn't seem like that's what you really need. To me, I think you need a heart cath. That would just answer all the questions we need answered. Do you have a blockage? Does it need to be addressed? And all this killing time that they're doing, what if you had another spell and had another heart attack? If it was a heart attack. Now, when I say heart attack, that means there was damage to the heart. The fact your EKG changed makes me concerned that there was a little bit of damage to your heart. You can have an attack of the heart, meaning you got chest pain coming from your heart. That does not damage your heart. But the fact your EKG changed makes me concerned that you had some damage. So I think you need a heart cath. They need to quit all this fiddling around and get to the point. Because basically, they're going to do this test. It's going to show something a little bit funky. They're going to do a heart cath. They could just do a heart cath now and skip that whole test. Yeah. It's just, it's wasting time, and I think it's putting you in jeopardy. So I think it addresses all your questions, at least to the best of my ability. For the lady who called earlier, my wife looked up. There's an herbal thing called Angocin, Angocin, and it seems to have a pretty good track record at simple infections, including urinary tract infections. Angocin. It's like made of nasturtiums and something else. It's just a flower. So that may be able to bypass the need for taking an antibiotic. Fascinating story. Okay. I just don't know. It is troubling that you can't see a physician when you're sick. Listen, when I was in practice, I did family practice. I left, depending on time of year. In the winter, I'd leave more spaces. And in the summer, I would leave less spaces because people aren't as sick in the summer. In my schedule, these doctors book up for 6 weeks out there. Mm-hmm. My brother's practice does that. He's booked out 6 weeks. You can't see him. How he has to see people that are sick? He has Thursday afternoons off. So he has to come in on Thursday afternoon and see all these people that they couldn't work into the schedule. So then he didn't get any time off, and it's just wearing him out. So I would leave 2 or 3 spots in the morning, 2 or 3 spots in the evening, if it's winter, when people tend to get sick, for sick people, because people are going to call in, and they're going to be sick. And so what ends up happening is they get treated over the phone, which the patient sort of likes, but then that's sort of shaky medicine at best. You haven't seen the patient. Yeah, you put them on a drug. Yeah. That doesn't sound very good. Yeah. Doctors need to leave holes in their schedule for sick people and not book yourself out, because I like mid-level practitioners. They do help in the practice, but I wanted them to see people on a regular follow-up. That's what I used them for in my practice. So when I had a nurse practitioner, maybe if you come in twice a year, one time you see me, one time you see her, all right? But you're coming in because it's a regular checkup. It's a regular follow-up for your blood pressure. It's a regular follow-up for your diabetes. It's not because you're sick. I wanted to see the sick people. Yeah. Because that's what the doctor's for. Medicine's having troubles right now. You should pray for it because it is sick. And not just here in the United States, also in, I don't know if anybody on there. I can't tell if it's a blinking.
Yeah, you guys call.
Okay, we'll take a call then. I'll probably wax eloquent here.
Good morning. Welcome to Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a question or comment for Dr. Ayers today?
Yes, I did.
All right, go ahead.
He said earlier that one pill would help. I found an amoxicillin, and I would like to know if that would be what he's talking about.
I don't treat people, but it seems to me that would be a good decision. Okay? So I would think taking one pill of any antibiotic, including amoxicillin, might turn your little situation around.
There you go.
Yeah, this is very painful, and I'm having that procedure on the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why they say that you can't take antibiotics before that. Maybe you do, and I will listen.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. For any kind of nerve block, I don't know why they would say that. But anyway, it'll be gone. It'll be gone before tomorrow. So amoxicillin's washed out pretty fast. It's a very short half-life. And if it's 500 milligram or something like that, or 250, it should probably at least knock it upside the head enough that your own immune system should be able to take care of the rest of it. No guarantee, but I mean, I think that's a decent option. And I would give it a whirl if it was me. But you'll have to make your own decision.
There you go. 865-457-1380. If you guys have any calls, questions, comments for Dr. Ayers, call us. We'll stop what we're doing to take your call and hopefully get it answered for you.
So for a long time, people have said, the Canadian health system, it's so good, and so we need to get here in the United States. And America is really one of the last bastions in the world of non-government health care. But the Canadian health system has fallen on hard times. In 1984, when it was started, there were 6 people working for every person that wasn't working. And now it's only, by 2035, it's going to be 2. That's not enough people to keep the system going. So the system they have is dying. If you need a total knee in the United States, you can probably get it done in a month. If the doctor says you need your total knee, he can probably get it done within 4 weeks, maybe faster. It'd be a year and a half in Canada, and be lucky to get it then. I mean, people's whole lives are on hold up there. Yeah. They can't go on vacation because Dad can't walk more than 20 feet because he's got a bum knee. And they've been waiting a year and a half to get it fixed. So now they're thinking we need more foreigners. They want to bring foreign people in to have their health care done in Canada. So it'll bring more money into the system because they don't think they can raise taxes anymore. People are going to revolt. Because this is not free. I mean, basically, when you get a national health system, what you're saying is we're going to spread the cost over everybody. So people that use the system, people who don't use the system are all going to have to pay for it. So like we do with schools. But trouble is, you don't have any control how much is being spent. They can just keep taxing you and say we need more MRIs. I think we have more MRIs. Yeah, I have to check it.
I just took one a week ago Sunday.
I bet if you check this out, we have more MRIs. I know we have more MRIs in Tennessee than they do of all of Canada. You might have more MRIs in Knoxville than they do in all of Canada. They don't really have a lot of facilities. So people come down here to get their health care. In fact, their doctors are capped off at how much they can make. And if you're in a profession that makes a lot of money or has high charges, like a neurosurgeon, you may have made all the money you can make by August or September. And so what traditionally they do is they come down to the United States and work for the last 3 months of the year. But that means they're not up there working. They can't see you up there. But they can't make any more money, so it doesn't make any sense for them to keep working up there because they can't get paid anymore. And the national health care system in England is just totally broke. You remember during the Olympics, they celebrated their national health care system with the most bizarre display. If you watched the Olympics that day, had these giant beds and monsters and all kinds of things. It was horrible. They were celebrating their national health care system, but it's broken too. So as bad as ours is here in the United States, and when it comes to surgeries and things, we're much better than pretty much any place in the world. It comes to procedures in general. Doesn't mean it doesn't need some help. I was saying back when I started medicine, I used to go to the intensive care unit and take care of my patients there. But pretty soon they got intensivists, and the intensivists didn't want family practice doctors in the intensive care unit. They felt it was a special place and they needed special doctors. Well, I usually consulted the cardiologist or whatever I needed when I was there. Just because I had to go back to the office and work, I needed somebody that was closer. But that's what's happened to your hospitals. And the other thing that's happened to hospitals is protocol care. And that was the beginning of the downfall of medicine. Because it used to be there was the ways to treat things, but there was some variation in how you could attack it based on the patient. But now there's a protocol. If you have X disease, this is the protocol for treatment. And remember when COVID came along, they made a protocol, and that protocol was deadly. And it's still being used today. You may not know this, but there are people that go in hospitals and rescue people because you can get stuck in there with COVID and you can't get out. I don't know if you remember those stories. People were in the hospital and they couldn't get out. And the hospital's saying, this is how you're going to be treated. Well, it's a whole business now to like G. Gordon Liddy. You remember that guy? Mm-hmm. He created a company that would go to foreign countries and save your relative that got kidnapped or whatever in another country. He had a whole team of extraction people. Well, now you need a team of extraction people sometimes to get out of the hospital. And people are breaking out with their Foley's dragging between their legs or catheters, urinary catheter dragging between their legs just to try to get out of the hospital. Because I can tell you, remdesivir is still on the protocol for treating COVID. It's a deadly drug. And I think half the x-rays, they show you these x-rays of people with COVID and they look something awful. But some of that is just from remdesivir. It causes you to go into kidney failure and heart failure. So you get fluid back up in your lungs. That drug was used in a trial for Ebola in Africa. Is one of the drugs they were using. And they had to take that drug out of the study because 54% of the people died taking remdesivir. It wouldn't even stay in the study. It was so bad. The results were so bad, they had to take it out of the study. And so they brought it here to the United States to treat COVID. And it didn't help COVID patients. It was like the nurses would call it, instead of remdesivir, they'd call it run, death is near. That's the name they gave it. And then they put people on ventilators, which just hastened their death. Mm-hmm. I'm sure people out there listening to me know that they lost control of their family member when they went to the hospital with COVID because they got stuck on a protocol. They were doing okay. Next thing you know, you hear they're on a vent. Or they didn't give them IV fluids. My wife confronted the physician when her stepmom was in the hospital because they wouldn't give her fluids. She'd been in the hospital 3 days, didn't even have an IV, and they weren't giving her anything to drink.
Yikes.
And the doctor got in her face and told her, fluids are just like a drug. I'm thinking, well, people drink at home.
Mm-hmm. Water.
No prescription for that. So some of your friends and your loved ones died from lack of food and lack of fluids. Now, why was that on a protocol not to give people food or liquid? Why was that? That wasn't for their health. And they used massive doses of benzodiazepines, which is like Valium IV, and used opiates. And they hastened a lot of people out of the world. A lot of people that died in the hospital from COVID, this is my opinion, based on what I've seen, didn't need to die. They'd done better if they stuck it out at home and took some of that horse medicine that the CDC didn't want them to take. There's a lot of unnecessary dying. But now I guess there's a bigger question. Is there continued dying? Because heart deaths in the United States are up. People are dropping dead still. You remember they were all dropping dead during the COVID thing? Mm-hmm. These athletes were out on the field and they had all these pictures of people giving speeches, and next thing you know, they passed out, and then the newscasters were doing a news report, and next thing you know, they're dead. Well, it's still going on to some extent, at least more than it ought to. In the UK, they're up 18%. In 2019, there were 18,693 cardiovascular deaths in the United Kingdom. In 2023, there were 21,995. That's 18% increase in heart deaths over just a 4-year period. An article in the UK Daily Mail from May 30th, just last week or so, 2025, says doctors sounded alarm over massive spike in Americans suddenly dropping dead from unexplained heart attacks. It started with the COVID pandemic. I think personally a lot of that's from the shot, because what they did, they made people's bodies make spike protein, and spike protein causes blood clots, and a heart attack is basically a blood clot, and the artery feeds the heart. Something I've said on here lately for the last year is that I'm not sure about the relationship of cholesterol to heart disease. And she was talking, the lady called about her heart issues, about what her total cholesterol was, her triglycerides were, her LDL and the HDL. A Russian guy did a meta-analysis. That's where they take all the studies he can find that are good on cholesterol, and he reviewed them all. He sort of made like one big study out of lots of little studies. And he found that there was no relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. I'm going to say that again. There is no relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. That turned American medicine up on its end. I don't know what they would do if they weren't writing for a statin. You can't hardly get out of a doctor's office if you're an adult without a statin. And I don't think that cholesterol has anything to do with it. And then I told you my concerns is that cholesterol is the backbone of making a lot of other things in your body. And if you don't have any cholesterol, you're surely not making testosterone or estrogen or progesterone or vitamin D or cortisol. All these things in your body are made out of cholesterol. And the whole LDL and HDL thing was, what LDL in the body does, because your liver makes cholesterol. Even if you didn't eat cholesterol, your liver makes cholesterol. That's how important it is. The LDL is a protein, low-density lipoprotein is what it stands for. It takes cholesterol from the liver out to the body where the body needs it. HDL takes cholesterol from the body back to the liver because it doesn't need it there anymore. So they came up with this theory. The LDL is a bad cholesterol because it's taking cholesterol out to the body, and HDL is a good cholesterol. So that's bringing it back to the liver. That's all theory. It's like the 6 foot thing. 6 foot seems like a good distance to keep people apart. They just made it up. So they just made this up. It's a bad cholesterol and a good cholesterol. So they want your HDL to be high, going back to the liver, and they want your LDL to be low. And I think it's all hogwash. There's no reason every American in the United States, every adult needs to be on a statin. That's basically about what it is. Or every American's got high blood pressure. And they keep dropping the numbers lower and lower. It just means more people are going to have to take medicine to get to the goals set by the American Heart Association. We're out of control. We're out of control. Most of you out there, you're okay. Most of you out there, and I'm not, you have to talk this over with your doctor, probably could stop half, if not all, the drugs you're taking, and you probably wouldn't feel any different. And I don't know that your life would be any shorter. There's very little evidence, I think, out there to show that taking all these medicines makes somebody live longer. I told people when they came to my office for the first time, if your goal is that I make you live longer, you got the wrong doctor. I like you to live better while you're alive, but it's unlikely I'm going to add a year or anything to your life. So why are we taking all these medicines? We're consumed. I bet the average person over 65 has 5 or 10 pills they take a day. It's just probably average. Some people take more. We're just a medicine-taking society. And if you look at the numbers, we're not doing too good. Since COVID, the average length of life has fallen by 3 years. 3 years. And I don't think some people in the government are too concerned about that. Maybe some people spent too much Social Security money, put IOUs in there and didn't put money back. And now they're concerned that people are going to live a long time. And so anything that makes people live not so long is good for the powers that be. I don't know if that's your thinking. That's sort of the way it's playing out.
Remember, guys, if you have questions, call us 865-457-1380 or toll free at 877-711-4005. And we'll stop, take your call, and let Dr. Ayers try and answer your question for you.
I think there's good news out there. It's on the cancer treatment front. Now, this is you treating your own cancer, okay? It's not your doctor treating your cancer. A study in 1994 showed that 97% of chemo really didn't do anything as far as saving people's lives. Another study done in the 90s showed that 90+% of oncologists would not give their family chemotherapy just because it's horrible and it's torture and the chance of a good outcome is slim. And remember, in cancer, they never really talk about cures. They talk about 5-year survivals. Just look it up. It's 5-year survival. What percentage of people make it that long? But it does seem like these new medicines that are over the counter work really good. Sad part, I think they've known that for maybe about 30 years, at least. And fenbendazole is one that seems to work well. And there's a study, it was a study, I guess. It was a paper. Came out in September 2024. And it said that fenbendazole needs to be studied because it seems like it's got good outcomes with cancer, but it's not really been approved in people. It's approved in animals. It's not approved in people. And so all they were recommending was, we need some studies to say what's the right dose, how often should you take it, that kind of interactions. You can get fenbendazole and take it. A lot of people have. A lot of people have cured their own cancers with it. If you've got a skin cancer, say a squamous cell carcinoma or a basal cell carcinoma on your skin, you should get some ivermectin, horse paste, and rub it on there. If it's a malignant melanoma, I always feel better you cut those out because they're more apt to metastasize somewhere else, to the brain or liver or something. So malignant melanoma, I think it works on malignant melanoma, but because it can metastasize, I would be more concerned about it. Now, can basal cells metastasize and squamous cells? Yes, they can, but it's really, really rare. So usually a doctor just cut it off in the office or have you rub something on it. But you might try ivermectin. You might try ivermectin cream or horse paste on your eczema. You might try it on your rosacea. You might try it on your psoriasis. I think you'll find you get pretty good results. I'm not going to say it's curative, but I think you'll be impressed with the results you get on all those things, just with this cream, just because of how it works. There's great medicines out there for psoriasis now, but, most of them have death as a side effect or some bad infection or get tuberculosis or something like that. If you had a cream that could rub on there and make it tolerable. And eczema is a big problem now because I think it goes back to these shots. I think these shots set people up for getting allergic problems. That's why we have the amount of asthma, the amount of allergic rhinitis, the amount of eczema in these children. And some kids, it's really debilitating. But you can get ivermectin, like use the Tractor Supply for your horse and just rub it on there and see what kind of results you get. Let's see, it was an article on a website called Yuka, Y-U-K-A. It was written by Julie Chapon and Jean-Baptiste Finis. And he is a research dude, Jean-Baptiste is. And he said in the 20th century, there were 100,000 new molecules developed. So scientists in their labs made 100,000 new molecules that didn't exist prior to that. 40 to 60,000 of them are sold throughout the world today. And many of them are what we call endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors can cause a lot of trouble. So let's talk what endocrine means. Endocrine means hormones, okay? So hormone is a chemical that's made someplace in the body. It acts somewhere else. So testosterone, let's say it's made in the testes in a male, and it acts on the muscles and the bones and the brains of men. Okay, so it's made there, but it works somewhere else. That's what endocrine means. Endocrine disruptors means it affects how that goes down. It's not working how it's supposed to. So a lot of these chemicals and things that have been made, whether it's a paint or it's in, and we have foam on the walls here in the studio, cut down reflections of sound, and all of these chemicals, we don't know exactly what they do. Mm-hmm. But an endocrine disruptor can make it so fertility would be lower. And you saw what we see in Canada, there used to be 6 people working for every one person that was retired. Now there's going to be just 2. Part of that is not just an aging society, but it's also people aren't having children like they used to have children. So there's not people coming up to make money to help run the government and other things that need to be run. So think of an endocrine disruptor like this. Let's say at work, you've got a parking place, and it's got your name on it. Now, all the parking places around you have somebody else's name on them. But you go to work one day, and somebody's parked in your spot. He's blocked you from getting into your parking place. So the next spot's like half a mile away. So you're going to be late for work now because you got to go park half a mile away and walk into work, and you can't get your job done. Okay, that's how endocrine disruptor works. Can work, okay? So it may block a receptor site. So the testosterone or the estrogen or thyroid or whatever other hormone can't get to where it needs to attach on the cell because the space is blocked. That's what some of these chemicals do. And so that hormone can't do what it's supposed to do, just like you can't do your job. Another way it can work is when you finally do get to work, you find out this person only took your parking place, but he's doing your job 3 times faster than you could do it. So some endocrine disruptors will attach to the site and increase the activity that the site would normally do. So it may cause increased activity of a hormone or may block the effect of the hormone altogether. That's why I call them disruptors. They disrupt the normal function of a hormone. So now what do we see? We see a lot of obesity in the United States. I used to think obesity is people just eating too much, but I think some of it is endocrine disruptor. Almost all men over 50 have boobs these days. I think some of that's due to the obesity and some of it's due to the endocrine disruptors. Because that's obviously a estrogen effect. You shouldn't have estrogen effects in men. But men do have some estrogen. Women have some testosterone. So you might see more women with hair on their face. All these things are from endocrine disruption. And a lot of the herbicides we use, atrazine, and glyphosate, they're bad endocrine disruptors. Then the whole soy question is whether or not, how much of an estrogen effect does soy have? It might not have much of an estrogen effect because soy is a phytoestrogen. It means it's a plant estrogen-like drug. But the amount we eat in our diet is tremendous. You'd be hard-pressed to find anything you eat in a day that doesn't have soy listed as one of the ingredients, whether it's cooked in that kind of oil or it's got soy lecithin or some other kind of chemical in it. So remember, it's got a paragraph on the ingredients. Don't eat it. It's not good for your health.
Let me see. We got a call here.
Yeah.
Good morning. Welcome to Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a question or comment for Dr. Ayers today?
Yes, I do. I was calling to check to see about what I use for toenail fungus. Maybe a home cure. I've tried the vapor rub, but it takes a very long time.
Okay. You want to hang up and listen?
Yes. Thank you, doctor.
All righty.
Doc.
I should look that up and get a better answer than what I'm going to give. So maybe write that down for next time. But tea tree oil is probably the one that's been tried a lot. Here's the problem with toenail fungus. The nail's not alive. So it's hard to take something by mouth that's going to affect it because there's no blood supply to your fingernail or your toenail. And once the fungus gets in there, you can't get to it. And because it's a nail, it's keratin. Putting some topically on it, it's hard to get it into the nail and kill the fungus in the nail. I've had some luck with taking the nails off on people and then putting them on an oral agent like Lamisil, just terbinafine. But tea tree oil has been used with some success. It seems to either work really well or not work. It's a little bit stinky, I think, but you can try that one. I'll see what's else in the herbal market between now and next time. It comes off your skin and gets in the nail on the end, and it sort of works its way back to the base. But like I say, because there's no blood supply to the fingernail, to take something by mouth, you basically have to take it as long as it takes that nail to totally replace itself, which would be like 3 to 6 months. You have to stay on some antifungal thing. Well, that's going to be fraught with some drug interactions and drug side effects at that point. Lamisil seems to be pretty decent as far as side effects go, but I don't know what all the drug interactions are. You have to look those up. And that's a prescription medication. There's Sporanox, there's some other ones, which is itraconazole. But they're hard to kill. One way you can, if you're younger and you don't want to get fungal nails as you get older, is to use like Lotrimin, which you can get over the counter and keep on your feet, because it starts out as athlete's foot. So it's athlete's foot's fungus that eventually jumped off the skin and got into the nail. And then once it gets in there, it's just really, really hard to get it taken care of. Like I say, tea tree oil put on it is, at least that's what patients tell me. It's worked for them. Okay, one more thing, we'll quit.
All right.
Question of brain dead. This may be controversial, but what is brain dead? I don't think anybody can answer that question. There are some guidelines for what it is. But this question was brought up by an anesthesiologist who was called in to anesthetize a guy who was brain dead so he could harvest his organs. So first off, brain dead was made up about 60 years ago in order to harvest organs from people that weren't dead. Okay? We'll say that again. Brain dead was a phenomenon made up 60 years ago so they could harvest organs from people that weren't dead. So he was concerned. He was going in to see a patient. He said it was in the ICU, and they actually had good urine output, blood pressure was good, breathing was good, everything's good about this patient, except they said he was brain dead and they wanted to harvest his organs. And they asked him, and said he didn't know how much anesthesia to use on somebody who was brain dead to harvest their organs. The ICU doctor said, do it just like you were going to surgery, because they were concerned this person might still feel pain. So he asked the pathologist, he says, what do you think about harvesting organs? He says, the pathologist who deals with really dead people, he says, I never have to use anesthesia on my patients to take the organs out. So that's his question there. Why do you have to use anesthesia on somebody to take their organs if they're dead? Because they're not dead. That's something that needs to be worked out. That was made to justify taking somebody's organs. And it's sad. Because some of these people do have brain activity, and technically they're not supposed to have any brain activity on an EEG, nothing. But some of them do, and they still call them brain dead. I'm sure there's some brain dead people that survived. That needs to be ironed out. There's a big need for organs these days. I mean, so much that they're stealing children off the street and taking their organs. Some of these kids that are kidnapped, that's what they're taken for. It's for the organs. A lot of people around the world sell one of their 2 kidneys to make money for their family. A big need for organs worldwide, but we can't delve into barbarism just because there's a need for organs. Alrighty, so that's not a very happy note to end on. Let's find something happy to end on.
Okay.
There are good cures for cancer out there. Say that again. A lot of people are just treating themselves. You can take apricot pits. We can talk about that. Apricot pits, they'll tell you they got cyanide in them. And I think the farm report we talked about cherry leaves when they wilt have cyanide. But apricot pits fall that same category. Remember, cherries have pits too. The fruits that have pits, if you crack the hard shell open, like in a peach or whatever, that inside is a seed-like thing, and you can eat it. It does have cyanide, but it's not cyanide that seems to hurt people, okay? But if a cancer cell shows up, then the cyanide kills the cell. And that's how these things work. And you can eat a few, 5, 10 of these little apricot pits a day, and it should theoretically, and at least anecdotally, it cuts your risk for cancer significantly. So if you don't want to get cancer and have to worry about taking some of these horse medicines to fix it, so I'm glad they're out there, it'd be better not to have cancer at all. And one way is to prevent it.
Let me see if we got a question here real quick. Good morning. Do you have a question or comment for Dr. Ayers real quick?
Yes, I do. I'll ask the question, hang up. Is there anything that can be done for lymphedema? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
You're welcome. Doc?
So lymphedema is just basically swelling in your skin. You have a blood system, your heart pumps blood to your feet, and then it comes back up through veins, and that's the way that travels around. But there's also another system in there of little tiny tubules that go to the lymph nodes in your groin and in other places. That's based on lymph. It's a different kind of fluid, and you can't get swelling in your legs or whatever. Usually, if it's blood's having trouble getting back up. So, not all edema is lymphedema. So I say most of the edema swelling, if you're talking about feet and legs, that's probably due to vascular disease, not blood pumping to your feet, but pumping it out of your feet. It's more so in women than it is in men, because women have babies, and when women are pregnant, the baby blocks the blood flow coming back from the legs. That's why important women lay on their side a lot and let the blood get back up from their feet. But it can cause the valves and the veins to be damaged, so then the blood doesn't make it up from the feet ever again in your life. So if you're up on your feet very long, your feet and legs swell. It tends to be worse in hot summer months. So support hose help. It just basically squeezes it and doesn't let it swell. They're hot in the summer, but they do work pretty good. 2, at least 30 minutes or so in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon and maybe 30 minutes in the evening. You got to get your feet higher than your chest. So it's downhill from your feet to your chest, and sort of let it just go that way and drain itself. Walking is good because walking tends to pump blood up from your feet and legs. Standing is horrible. So if you're standing or sitting with your legs down, they're going to swell. Some people think eating more salt makes it worse, but I think we overdo salt here in the country as far as our worries about it. I'm not sure it's the evil we've made it out to be. But getting your feet up and support hose. They do make SCDs, sequential compression devices, if you have really bad swelling in your legs. And what they do, it squeezes your foot. They're like trousers. It goes over your feet and your legs. It squeezes your foot, squeezes your calf, squeezes your thigh. Squeezes your foot, squeezes your calf, squeezes your thigh, and it basically milks it all back up in your body. And I've had good success with people who had really bad edema with those. And your doctor can write for them, or I guess you can probably find them on Amazon. You look for them. They call it SCDs, sequential compression devices.
Okay. Good morning, WYSH. You have a question or comment for Dr. Ayers this morning? Hello?
Hello.
Do you have a question or comment for the doc this morning?
Yes. I get frequent UTI infections, and I'm wondering what I can do for that, something more of a natural alternative.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to hang up and listen?
Sure.
Thank you.
We sort of went over it previously, so it's always awkward to talk about. But remember, all urinary tract infections are ascending. And they start outside your body and they go north. So that's why somebody probably taught you when you were younger to wipe front to back, okay? You don't want to wipe back to front, because then you're going to pull germs up into the urethra where the pee comes out. So when you wipe, you got to start where the pee comes out and push backwards so you don't push bacteria up in there. And remember, it's very short in a woman from the outside to the inside. 2, after intimacy, pee immediately, because just the mechanics of intimacy drive bacteria up in the bladder every single time. Okay, every single time. And now, bacteria in the bladder don't make an infection, but it's the start of an infection, because once they get attached to the wall, then you got trouble. 3, but drinking cranberry juice or some other acidic drink regularly, that seems to make the bacteria have trouble grasping onto the wall. So even if they get up in your bladder, they tend not to be able to latch on and cause an infection. So it's better at prevention. And then we talk about this Angus and stuff, which you can try to treat yourself if you get one. But the other thing is, you can take an antibiotic after intimacy. Just take one pill. Your doctor will write for it. And say, every time you're intimate, you take a pill, and then it should kill all the bacteria that made it up there that you didn't get out. And then drink a lot of fluids. If you keep everything going south by having to pee a lot, then there's less chance someone's going the other direction, coming up north, and cause an infection. And those are all simple things you can do, and pretty much probably most women need to do, because urinary tract infections are uncomfortable, make you feel like you got to pee every 10 seconds, and most of that can be controlled. The most aggressive thing is to take an antibiotic after intimacy, and that seems to work really well for most women.
All right. Anything else?
I think that's enough. I have more, trust me, but that's enough.
Remember, Doc's here the first Tuesday of every month. So if you come up with questions or you've got something later on that you'd like to ask, we can do that. Just let me know, or just be back here next month, first Tuesday of the month, and we'll ask questions. Have a great day. We finished, Doc?
I think we're finished.
All right, there we go.
Thank you for listening to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Make sure you tune in at 10 a.m. each day, Monday through Friday, right here on AM 1380 WYSH and BBB TV 12. Or listen live online at WYSHradio.com. And remember, if you have a question, comment, or problem, call in tomorrow and ask your neighbor. Or email from our website. It's